much with us. Time now for our second session of the day. Four young students, Tarasha, Anjali, Anam and Tejas, are going to be in conversation with Arnab Goswami, Editor-in-Chief of Republic Media Network. Now, you know Arnab puts a lot of people in the hot seat. Today it's the turn of these four youngsters, Tarasha, Anjali, Anam and Tejas, to put Arnab in the hot seat. The session is called The Youth Wants to Know. You've seen Arnab in many different contexts. Some of you may love him, some of you may hate him, but he's a big influence in the way we perceive and consume news. And like I said, he puts a lot of people in the hot seat every day, and his turn today. All right, once again, welcome to Arnab Goswami. Arnab will today be interviewed by four young students, Anam, Tarash, Anjali, and Tejas.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much for this. My first question to you, your style of journalism has changed and evolved over the years. What are the major factors that have contributed towards this change?
Can I get your first sentence again, please?
Yes. Your style of journalism has changed and evolved over the years. What are some of the major factors that have contributed towards this?
Well, I think the country has been through a series of changes. And I think that especially in the last 10 years, nature of journalism has changed because of societal reasons. I also think that there have been events in our country's history which, amplified by the media, make people think, question. And then the same people who earlier were happy with a certain form of news presentation, when they taste something different, and then they feel that this is more worthy, this is more representative of them, then they demand more of it. So I feel that in our country's history, since about 2006, 7, I would say around 2008, 2010, there have been many events which have had been inflection points in our country's history, like 26/11, in 2008, and then the scams that broke between 2010 and 11. 6 or 7 scams broke then from the Commonwealth Games scam onwards. In all of these events, people started demanding, asking more and more questions, and then the basic form of journalism changed. We used to cover stories differently before 2010. Then we brought in campaign journalism. We brought in investigative journalism. And in fact, much before India Against Corruption came into being, we had led a campaign against corruption, which was not a buzzword politically before. So things changed. And once things change, it's very difficult to go back to the earlier format and then say that we will now go back to the earlier normal. So we have a new normal, and therefore since 2010, things never really have been the same again.
Thank you, sir. Over to you, Tejas.
Good afternoon, sir. My question would be, how does a journalist negotiate the fine line between investigative journalism and media trial?
Now, you see, the word media trial is very loosely used. Often the people who are the subject of our investigations feel it's a media trial. So all the people who are named in the Narcotics Control Bureau charge sheet, 1,200 pages, would say it's a media trial. Right? So it's a charge that's been put on people like us for a long time. Frankly, Tejas, I couldn't care less for the opinion of those people who, without going into the details of a matter, quickly pass 140 character opinions on media trials. And therefore, we have to do our job. We can't always look over our shoulder and be concerned about whether two sundry individuals on Twitter call it a media trial or whether, at the end of the day, you must remember that Suresh Kalmadi called the Commonwealth Games scam a media trial. A. Raja also called the 2G scam a media trial. Ashok Chavan, before being made to resign as the Chief Minister of Maharashtra because of the Adarsh scam, had called it a media trial. Now, if you ask anybody what they thought about the exposés done on the consumption of narcotics by people from Bollywood, they would call it a media trial. And I think what I can only tell young people like you is we must be very wary of peer pressure in this matter. And the fact that 2-3 people without informed opinion sometimes call serious journalistic investigations a media trial is a matter of great concern for me. Because we do our journalism for the betterment of society. Now just imagine if all the people who were at our receiving end when we were doing the scams of 2010-11, right? Or for that matter, Lalit Gate, when we exposed Lalit Modi's, dealings, or when we broke the IPL scam. We had at that point of time when the IPL scam broke, Shashi Tharoor was made to quit as a minister, if I'm not mistaken. He was a junior minister, he had to quit. Now, if you were to ask him, he would say, oh, it was a media trial, right? But then, of course, we have to do our job regardless of what people think. So the fine line is actually decided by the journalists, by the editor, right? In consultation with a group of reporters, you have to be sure about the facts that you have at hand. And then you must free yourself of this nagging possibility that some people will call it a media trial. That's always going to be the case. People called our coverage of the lynching of sadhus in Palghar, right? They said it's a media trial, but then did we not see the sadhus being lynched in the presence of policemen? Right? So I think that's a fine line. Most journalists professionally are trained to manage that fine line. It's not like we are always correct. But as long as your intentions are okay and if you do enough work, I think being accused of a media trial is par for the course. If we did not do the kind of journalism that we have done, I don't think many of the major issues we talk about would have even gone to the courts. Right? The true test of our journalism is when it is based on facts. Now, the extrapolation of facts is not the job of investigating agencies alone. You follow? Let me give you a very live example which you can perhaps relate to. When I was in Times Now, I did a deep investigation into the Sheena Bora murder case, which eventually became very big, the case of Peter Mukherjee, Indrani, a murder mystery. Did the Mumbai police investigate the story or did we? Or did the Mumbai police fail in doing what we did? Was our investigation quoted in the court? Yes, it did. Did it stand the test? It did. Now imagine a situation where this entire Sheena Bora Indrani Mukherjee case was not to be covered by us at that time. Would the case ever come to light? No. When it happened, though, I must tell you, a lot of people called it a media trial. So the media trial issue sometimes is used as a defensive response by people who want to hide the facts. And we must not worry too much about it.
Sir, you mentioned Twitter in your answer, right? So I'm just coming to that. An increasing number of people are becoming intolerant with the content on these platforms every day. So how do you think we can encourage better debate and discussion and prevent and save them from, strict and rigid rules and regulations?
Anjali, I think, firstly, I believe Twitter is a very irresponsible medium. The rules of the country apply everywhere. Twitter is not a sovereign country where the rules of the country don't apply. And where mistakes are made by these people like Jack Dorsey and others is that they want to operate in India but not respect the laws of India. Now let us turn around and say, why were they then so sensitive about what President Trump was saying? How come they apply the rules of the United States of America on their former president? He was in office, I think, at that time. How come they are very concerned about making sure that American government rules, American police rules, whatever they are, cannot be flouted? But when it comes to the rules in India, even when there is solid evidence that Twitter was being used to sort of create a riot-like situation, they suddenly turn around and they almost tell the authorities in India that they are not answerable to Indian laws. This is complete and absolute hypocrisy. Can we change it? Yes, Anjali. I have gone off Twitter, I as in like our organization. I've always felt it's a very negative medium where a lot of lies are spread by a lot of fairly vicious people. I have no problem with the debate. In fact, my entire life and career has been about propounding the spirit of debate. Where I have a fundamental problem is in spreading lies, right? And a lie told 1,000 times in the post-truth world is accepted by people as reality. And then some of us believe that we don't want to get into an ugly skirmish because who wants to wrestle with a pig? We'll have muck all over us. So we steer clear of it. And therefore, I think the only answer is in having a balance. And the balance for us is by having an alternative platform. We've talked about Koo being an alternative platform. At least we believe that if you can have a fresh start on a different platform, maybe you can leave back some of the negativity. That's all that we can hope for, right? We can only hope that we will leave back the negativity. But I think I support some of the new rules that the government has brought in because I think it would be terrible. You know, we all say freedom of expression, Article 19(1)(a). But if someone were to spread a lie about you, you wouldn't like it, right? So freedom of expression is often supported by people, you know, who behave irresponsibly. I've seen fully grown up people behave like, you know, in a sickening manner on social media and just believe in hurting others, abusing others, and spreading lies. So I think we must be very wary of it. I personally tell myself that we must hold our opinion till we are sure of our facts. Not out of fear of the law, but out of a moral code that all of us must apply. And that should apply to all of us. So I don't think you can change things overnight. But if this country is to become truly great, we must not allow the negativity of social media to pull us back. You know, especially I think it has a very damaging effect on young people. Because things like peer pressure begin to apply. You know, it's like a WhatsApp group. It becomes a cult. I'm sure all of you are part of WhatsApp groups. It's very difficult to disagree with what the majority of the WhatsApp group agrees with, right? And can you imagine? I really think, therefore, that Twitter has become like a WhatsApp group of extremely negative people. So that's my concern is that if everybody thinks the same way, and if we don't become accepting of an alternative opinion, and the discussion becomes too polarized, I think it will have a long-term damaging effect on young people.
So I had a question. With the issues fake news, media bias, and unreliable sources, do you think that the media should or even can be regulated? And if so, by who?
Well, regulation in the media has been in discussion for a long time. We keep talking about it. The problem is that who's going to regulate us? We have some industry bodies which unfortunately sometimes become very self-serving. I was once part of a Lutyens body. But then I found that it was very self-serving, and I felt that all of Indian media cannot be represented by 5 channels sitting in Delhi. So I formed an alternative body called the News Broadcasting Federation. So we've got more than 50, 60 channels on it. We are attempting self-regulation. I disagree with government regulation. Because today there's a government that you agree with. Tomorrow there'll be a government you disagree with. And you can't trust politicians to regulate the media anyway. It doesn't matter which political party they're from. I wouldn't want to be answerable to anything to do with the government. So I'm opposed to any sort of what you call government or statutory regulation. I don't want to hand me down. I want the government to say, okay, here's a little carrot for you. We're going to regulate you and give you powers instead. I don't want powers given to me by the government. We are answerable to the people, right? So I think general government rules, I think, should work. IPC, CRPC, there are enough penal rules, criminal rules to regulate us. But beyond that, our conscience, right? And I can't be regulated by a bunch of has-beens. We have some groups of editors in Delhi, for example. Now, 90% of the people on these sort of editors groups are not even professional journalists. It's just some ex-politician, somebody strayed into some other work. So there isn't any, I wouldn't trust any group of Delhi-based journalists or editors to regulate me because I disagree with them. I believe Indian media has grown beyond Delhi. India has grown beyond just Delhi, right? We're from different parts of the country. So I think my ethics, what I agree with, my answerability to you as a viewer, I think that sort of works. Not some government telling me what to do. I have serious problems with government regulation. Because I would feel that there's no difference between me and a semi-government outfit, I feel very held back, constrained.
Yes, sir. And for my last question, why does the media seem really agitated these days? At least from my point of view.
Anam, I'm not agitated, so I don't know. It must be the other media.
All forms of media put together, from the newspapers.
As of now, on a lighter note, the rest of the media is too agitated about Republic. Because they don't like us, And problem with us is that we are professional guys, We're professional people. Media is just too bothered about itself. It's not doing its work in my view. It's too busy discussing others, So I feel that's wrong. Media should be about reporting on the people, no? What horrifies me, editors don't do any editing, reporters don't do any reporting. Instead, they are busy commenting on other people in the media. Silly debates, if you ask me. You get my point?
Yes, sir.
It's very silly. Constantly. And I tell people, what is wrong with you? Why don't you break any stories? Have you noticed this, Anam? Today is a great day for us. We launched a Bengali channel and we've got a series of investigative reports and exclusives lined up. How often do you see investigative reports and exclusives on the media these days? How often do you see that? And I think that's the worry for me. Why is the media worked up? I don't know. I'm not worked up. I'm quite relaxed. But yes, the media is too bothered about itself, and media is broken into camps and they're busy throwing muck at each other. It's quite upsetting, actually.
And is there anything that we can do to avoid this or to?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I think you should be more demanding. You should be more demanding of content, not of empty opinion. I think what you can do is that I think you disregard empty opinion. People who just pass a comment on everything, right? And I think you should be more demanding of the media and ask them that how often have you done quality content which is differentiated from others? you should seek more differentiation in content. I think that's very important. And I think you should boycott all media whose only job is to talk about other media. You get my point?
Yes, sir.
I think the most futile quote unquote journalism nowadays, there are whole websites which are only dedicated to discussing media. Organizations which have individuals working there who have not done a serious news report in their whole life have dedicated their entire life to critiquing other media. That's I think it's very fundamentally shallow. It's like there's always, it's like in class there's always one person who's an armchair critic. He or she won't do anything but will cast comments on everyone. So I think you should boycott these people. They are negative. We need to weed out these people. I think we need to bring in a new nationalism in media. Indian media organizations cannot have American citizens as editors. I say, if you are so committed to this country, then why don't you become an Indian citizen and then comment on it? We cannot have an American citizen as an editor in India unless tomorrow CNN allows an Indian citizen to become the editor-in-chief of that channel. So we need to bring in more nationalism in media. And I'm not talking about things that are restrictive. I think we need to bring in a new sense of nationalism among young people, infuse that into the media, and remove the armchair critics in the media to bring in a sea change.
Thank you so much, sir. I'd like to call on the MC right now.
All right. Thank you, students. Thank you, Anam, Tarasha, Tejas, and Anjali. My question for Arnab. Arnab, you're in the International Kindness Festival 2021. Is there a room for kindness in television news?
Of course there is, Suresh. I'm very kind towards all my critics. So that's my act of kindness towards them. I think there is, we are not in the business of only spreading the good news. I think we need to bring in a domino effect in the media, Suresh, right? And I think the greatest kindness that we can do on ourselves is to fight divisiveness and negativity in this country. And the last thing I would say, especially to young people in this country, the kindness that you can do to people in our country, India, is to be aware of the fact that there are people who want to divide us on religion and caste. We need to be wary of it. We need to stop the spark of that kind of violence or negativity to spread in our society. And that's the greatest kindness we can do on ourselves.
All right, Arnab Goswami and students, thank you very much for being part of this session.